Welcome to the College Football Bros. I'm Michael Newman.
I'm Ryan Newman.
And I'm Trey Newman.
All right, let's get right into our question for today. Question number 48 of our college football preview series. Is Notre Dame overrated? And we're talking just 2021 here. Our baseline for the question will be the coaches and the AP poll, where they're ranked 7th and 9th, respectively, here in the preseason. So before we answer definitively, Trey, let's give our thoughts on the team and start us out with the offense.
Sure. Well, there's a lot and lots of change on the offensive side for the Irish. They need to replace 30-win starting quarterback Ian Book starting out. They're getting Wisconsin transfer Jack Coan to do so. He doesn't necessarily have the running ability that Book had, but he is an efficient passer. Although the challenge with Coan is he primarily threw a lot of short passes, didn't necessarily stretch the field at his time at Wisconsin. The other challenge, of course, is they need to replace 4 offensive linemen. That is obviously no easy task, especially considering they were all ACC linemen a year ago. I mean, Notre Dame consistently does churn out great offensive line play, but it might take a little bit of time into the year for that unit to gel. But it's not all doom and gloom for the Irish. The big star returning to the offense is the running back Kyron Williams. He had over 1,000 yards last year, 13 touchdowns. They also have a speedy Chris Tyree in the backfield. He'll be utilized a lot. But again, the question is just, can the line open up the gaps for those guys to have another successful season? And then can they also protect Coan so that he can try and stretch the field a little bit more? Because even last year in that playoff team, that was one of the issues that the Irish had on the offense. They couldn't really get the ball downfield a whole lot, at least compared to years prior. That he does have a good outlet at tight end. Michael Mayer should have a big year. I could see him being the main target. But what else are you seeing with this offense, Mike?
I mean, I think you covered it well, and with all the turnover, I am a little bit skeptical of the offense. They do add in to help out the losses on the offensive line. They bring in Kane Madden, a great guard transfer from Marshall, so that should help. But yeah, it's going to take a step back. There's almost no way that it doesn't. I think Coan is a downgrade from Ian Book. I thought Book was underrated as a playmaker. And there's just really not other than Mayer, a proven receiving threat. Like, there's guys that they've been talking about for a couple of years that could step up. You've got Kevin Austin, Braden Lenzy. They both have the potential, but we've been hearing that for a couple of years, and it has been injury issues that have been kind of the major problem there. But we'll see. Is this the year those guys break out? It needs to be, or else it's really going to be a big step back for the offense. So, it'll be fine, but I think it'll be worse than last year.
I think it's safe to say that. All right, let's move on to the defensive side of the ball here. Kind of the big news, or the big thing here, is the new defensive coordinator that they have coming in, Marcus Freeman from Cincinnati. Of course, they lost Clark Lee, who went on to be the head coach over at Vanderbilt. But Marcus Freeman did a great job at Cincinnati, being the defensive coordinator there. Led one of the best defenses in the country the last couple of years, and he's actually walking into a really good situation as far as defense for Notre Dame. They do lose a great player, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, who was the ACC Defensive Player of the Year. That hurts, losing him, but Kyle Hamilton is back, and he's at safety, and maybe the best college football defender there is. He's a stud. Clarence Lewis played really well as a freshman at corner last year. So between those couple guys and the other couple returners they have, experienced-wise in the secondary, I think they'll be fine. Drew White's back at middle linebacker. He's a solid player. And even though the defensive line, they do lose both their ends, both the interior linemen return. They do have some guys that are ready to step up on the outside. Justin Adimalola is ready to, I think he's kind of poised to break out. So the defense is in really good shape, I think. And under Marcus Freeman, so long as they take to his system well, I think this is going to continue to be a really good defense, top 15, maybe top 10 type defense nationally. So all signs point to a really good defense here for Notre Dame.
Yeah, it'll still be good, and I trust Marcus Freeman just about as much as I trust Clark Lee, so I don't think there's a drop-off in coaching at all. It could be an upgrade, could turn out to be. Certainly in recruiting, it's kind of looking that way, but As far as this season, there are significant losses at every level. There's talent coming back too, but when I see the offense taking the step back that it will, my question is, can the defense take a big step forward to make up for that? And I don't see that. I see it kind of.
I don't either. I see it being about the same, but,
right, which is good, but.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to, in my opinion, I don't think it's going to get much better. I know you said it's going to take a massive step forward, Ryan, but.
Sure. Yeah.
All right.
Best defense in the country.
Okay. How about their schedule?
Well, it's not impossible, but it's also no cupcake at the same time. Their season really is going to end up coming down to the middle portion, where they play against 4 preseason top 15 teams, but 3 of those are at home, and 1 is a neutral site game against Wisconsin in Chicago. If they can navigate well through that, the back end of their schedule, they have 4 November games. They should be favored in all of them. So if they're able to weather the storm early, they could have actually a pretty good season.
Yeah, there's no behemoths on the schedule, but also very, very few gimmies. So, could be a lot of close games there. Let's answer the question: is Notre Dame overrated, Ryan?
I do think they're overrated. If you want to average it out between the two polls, putting them at 8th. I just don't see them being a top 10 team this year. They're being kind of honestly, like LSU was the year prior last year. I think they're being a little bit too much rewarded for the great year that they did have, kind of following up to this or previous to this. They made the playoff. They're a great team, but this is not that team. They lost so much on offense. The offense isn't going to be anywhere near what it was the previous year. Defense, I expect it to be about the same, but just the offense regression is going to drop them quite a bit. So is it a top 10 team? No, in my eyes. Is it top 15? Maybe. But to put them 7th and 9th, I think is just too, I think it's just not really assessing what they have instead of just kind of looking at what they've done.
Yeah, it is. It's a tough. I can see why people would put them there because they have the last 4-year stretch under Kelly. They've been pretty consistent. I know they had that down year before, but maybe people are just kind of thinking that he's got the program to a place where it doesn't matter what you lose. They're just going to keep cranking out those 10-win seasons. But I disagree with that. I think they are overrated. I would have them maybe around 15th or so if I were making my own poll, which we actually did make our own poll, which will come out in a few days. They're just 124th in returning production out of 127 teams. Like, none of these past 4 years, they haven't been ranked that low in returning production, so it's kind of new ground here. I know they recruit pretty well, but not at the Ohio State, Alabama type level where I just don't worry about what they lose. So, I agree with your take. Offense takes a step back. Defense maybe stays about the same. And I'm seeing 8-4 or 9-3, and I think 8-4 maybe even a little bit more likely than 9-3. So, not top 10 for me.
Yeah, and well, speaking of 8-4 or 9-3, their over/under win total is 8.5. So, an 8-win or 9-win team, is that necessarily going to put you in the top 10 or top 8 in this case? Probably not. So, in the grand scheme of things, I don't think they're wildly overrated, but in terms of that baseline 8th or top 10, I'm going to say they are. I ended up taking a look at a handful of computer power ratings, including SP Plus, Team Rankings, FPI, a couple others. Came out to an average about 12.5. And the lowest of that was SP Plus, which had them at 18th. So even if I remove that, I think they only get to 10th or 11th. So I just don't see, like you guys just mentioned, the lack of returning production and then some losable games. There's just too many questions at this point for me to cement them as a top 10 team, even though Brian Kelly has proven to be pretty consistent, but I couldn't put him there right now.
Okay, that'll do it for this episode of the College Football Bros. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at CFB Bros if you don't already, and we will see you tomorrow.
You've been watching the College Football Bros. Be sure to subscribe here on YouTube and in your podcast app for college football content all year round. For bonus episodes and access to our Discord chat, join our Patreon at patreon.com/collegefootballbros. Thanks for watching.